Hi there, this is Åsa with a new coastal style scrapbook page. Today I'm working with these 3 photos of my daughter. She's exploring the beach, or the more like the rock surface by the sea, where she was looking for seashells. So this is typically something that she really enjoys doing. She loves to go look for new exciting things that she can collect and just have for as keepsakes from all the places that we visit. I have grabbed a couple of pieces of paper. The 2 6x6 papers are from the authentic anchored 6x6 paper pad, and that top piece there, it's a really old Swedish paper, and it has all these kind of marine and nautical symbols, like boats and flags and lighthouses. And I've had that one in my stash for quite some while now, and I love it. I love it so much. It's so beautiful, but it's rather hard to use since the pattern is so big. It also has a lot of empty space between the pattern or the different pictures. So I find it quite hard to use. Perhaps if you're a card maker, you can use it as just like a single piece on a card, but for me as a scrapbooker, it's a bit tricky to use that, and I will get around the problem by using a circle punch later in this process. I have placed the 3 photos together after cropping them a bit, so that they form like a T on the side, and this will be the photo block for this page. And I'm layering the 6x6 papers behind the photo block to form mats of different shapes, and I'm cutting out the areas that's hidden beneath the photos so that I can get more use of the paper. I like this method, and it gives me much I get a lot out of each paper. Even though I have a lot of paper, I really want to use them as much as I can, and not just hide them under a photo block. The other day I reminded you that I'm on Instagram, and I have been thinking a lot about why I love Instagram lately, and I have one of those, my own feed, or my own Instagram account. It's almost only layouts. Once in a while I also post something other creative that I have done, a painting or a card or a photo of my supplies or something like that, but it's always something that has to do with paper crafting. A lot of people there mix their feeds with the private stuff, but I don't do that. My feed is just only creative, and I follow thousands of different Instagrammers, and I just love to find new people to follow and see their creative process. So I follow both calligraphy masters and watercolor painters and graphic designers and scrapbookers and card makers and planners and all these lovely people that share their creative process and their masterpieces. And I have realized that the crowd on Instagram is a lot different than the crowd on, for example, YouTube and Facebook. And one thing that have inspired me a lot is looking at the Russian and the Asian paper crafters, because they are seldom on the other channels that I look at, and on Instagram they are plenty, and I just love to see other parts of the scrapbooking community, and Instagram has given me that opportunity. You don't need to understand the words they write to be able to enjoy their artwork, and that is something that I find very inspiring, because you can communicate with pictures, and Instagram is all about that. I hope that you want to follow my Instagram, so I'll give you the hashtag once more. It's scrap with Asa, with underlines between the words. So I'd really much appreciate if you want to follow me there as well. Back to this page. I have used my circle punch to cut out the details from this marine pattern paper, and sometimes the whole pattern didn't fit in the circle, but I decided to give that freedom to myself and just use it as pieces of embellishment. So that's totally okay for this time. I'm placing these circles all around the edge of this photo block, and I'm loving the result that I get from that. And when cutting out the circles, I got some leftovers, and they are these striped pieces, because the backside of that pattern paper were striped, just blue and darkish red pattern, and that was perfect for adding a bit of grounding to those circles. So I'm using that whole paper and making as much as possible of the paper piece that I had left. So I'm inking the edges just to make them stand out a little bit more against the background, and I'm using a white cardstock as a background. I have realized that I often start with an off-white background and then I move on to a white before I glue everything down. So it seems that I like the crisp and a bright white of a white cardstock instead of the off-white, even though I sometimes have off-white in the pattern papers. I still prefer to use white as my background. I think that perhaps it's something to do with the just this kind of marine theme, where the light is so important. When you're by the sea and it's sunshine and you have all this nature around your side, the light is so important, and by using the crisp white background, I kind of capture that brightness a bit, and I have realized that's something that I do very often. I'm very happy that I got to use this old paper, because I have found it very hard to use in my scrapbooking, and I feel that this method helped me to actually use it up, and I'm happy about that. Do you remember a couple of videos ago I tried to watercolor on a layout, and I did terrible about it, and I tore everything apart, and promised myself to do differently another time. This is the second try of this method, and I'm going to just color slightly around the edges of this photo block, and create like small shadows and continue the colors of the sky onto the paper. So this is the first try that actually ended up in my album. The first attempt went in the baskets. but this time I think it worked out, and I I had fun. It's still a paper that's not very good together with watercolors. I haven't prepped it in any way, but I was much more careful with the amount of color that I used, and I almost just it's mainly water. It's just a tiny hint of color, and I'm a lot more careful than I was the first time I tried this method. But it was fun, and I will continue experimenting with this in my scrapbooking, and hopefully I will get the the method eventually, and be able to master it, because right now it feels really shaky and a complete risk. It's such a risk trying to just make this onto a almost finished page. But it was fun in the same time. Now when I look at this layout, it was a couple of weeks since I made it, I realized that the watercoloring resembles the tone and the color tone that is on my daughter's skirt, and and that it's really incredible how I tried to make it the tone of the sea and the sky, and I actually made it the tone of her skirt, but I guess that's totally okay. So here's the close-ups of this page, and it's just what I had in mind. It's very marine, it's very coast feeling-y, and I have these 3 very characteristic photos of my daughter in my album. I'm a happy scrapper. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. This is Åsa. Bye.